We talked about building an emotional vocabulary. We talked about learning to recognize our emotions through our physical sensations of them, through the impact of our emotions on our thoughts and our behaviors. The next thing we'll talk about is becoming more emotionally aware by just checking in on yourself emotionally throughout the day. Take some time throughout the day to check in on your emotional states, see how you're doing. Um, we take it for granted that we have an inner narrative, this stream of consciousness, that we have this kind of like voice in our head commenting on everything that we do, that, we have these thoughts throughout the day. You have the exact same thing with emotion. So you have an emotional stream of consciousness where you just have this like river of emotions that's ebbing and flowing in you throughout the day. And anytime you want, you can stop and just check in on those emotions to increase your emotional self-awareness. This is one of the most embarrassing things I'll share with you this semester. But I've developed this habit of like inner like self-talk where when I have a moment, a down moment, like when I'm waiting in line at the grocery store, I literally, my self-talk will be like, "Hey man, how you doing?" Just like I would ask like a friend that question, right? If I saw them after a long day or whatever. And it's just this little reminder, and I'll answer that question seriously, and I'll really kind of pause and reflect on myself and reflect on the day, and really kind of give an honest, authentic answer to how am I feeling, how am I doing, and really check in on my emotional state. So I know that's super cheesy, but it really is a good way. Just remind yourself throughout the day. Just check in on yourself throughout the day. Just like you would check in on someone you care about throughout the day, right? You are hopefully someone you care about. All right, last but not least, we are going to talk about keeping an emotional diary. So, keep an emotional diary. You can do this however you want. There's a lot of different ways to go about it. There's a lot of apps, emotion tracking apps. If you're into that, you can do it that way. I keep a spreadsheet because I'm a psychologist, so of course I keep a spreadsheet of my emotions, where I have like 5 emotions on there: anger, happiness, sadness, stress. I can't remember the last one. Irritation, maybe. And I will, at the end of the day, I'll come back and fill out the sheet, and I will basically, on a 1 to 7 scale, I'll rate the intensity of that emotion throughout the day. And so take something like happiness. I'll rate it on a 1 to 7 scale. What was my most intense happy experience that day? And I may be happy more than once during a day. I hope I am. But I just count the most intense experience throughout the day. That's just how I prefer to do it. So I'll rate it on a 1 to 7 scale. And then I will just give a brief description of what caused it. Usually I'll just say like work, relationship, um, health, something like that, and I'll peg it there. And so the reason I do this is there's 3 main reasons. One is it just makes me more emotionally self-aware during the day. So during the day, when I have a powerful emotion, I'll be like, oh, I got to record this later. I should be thoughtful about the intensity that I'm experiencing and what's causing it and what's going on. So it's this reminder to pay attention to my emotions throughout the day. And also at the end of the day, it encourages me to reflect back on my day and kind of see what my emotional situation was. Oh, the other thing I forgot to mention is that I track time. So I'll put the time when I had the emotion. And again, I do this so that I can see patterns that I tend to have certain moods at certain times of the day. And so I can see patterns about my emotional experiences throughout the day. Also, like I said, I track the reason for those emotions. So I can look at that and I can easily see, hey, what are the things in my life that are causing me stress? What are the things in my life that bring me joy? And sometimes we get this like narrow focus on a day-to-day basis, but by keeping track of it, we can look back and we can see patterns. So keep an emotional diary. Today we talked about becoming more emotionally self-aware, and we talked about 4 tools that you can use to become more emotionally self-aware: building an emotional vocabulary, learning to recognize your emotions through the physical sensation of emotions, through the impact of emotions on your thoughts and the impact of emotions on your behavior. We talked about checking in on yourself throughout the day, kind of just dipping into that stream of emotions throughout the day to see how you're doing. And lastly, we talked about keeping an emotional diary to just remind yourself to be emotionally aware during the day, and also to detect patterns over time about your emotional experiences. That's it. Thank you very much.